I still remember the exact curl of her lips when she said it. "Maybe you should get a waitressing job, Madison. It's more your speed." The laughter around the table cut sharper than any knife. I smiled, holding my glass steady, but my pulse pounded like war drums. Weeks later, she walked into a sleek downtown office, high heels clicking on marble floors, ready to close her biggest deal. Then she froze. Her eyes landed on the gold letters etched into the glass door. My name, my company. And I wasn't smiling anymore. Daniel's world looked like a glossy magazine spread. The Carter estate rose behind ornate gates, the kind you only see in political campaign ads and Hollywood wedding features. I'd stepped into it 2 years ago wearing a silk gown and the kind of naive hope you can only have once. People online loved our wedding photos, the sweeping staircase, the shimmering chandeliers, the way Daniel's hand rested protectively at my waist. Offline, the picture was less perfect. In the grand hallway, the family wedding portrait hung in an ornate gold frame. Daniel stood tall at the center, his mother Evelyn at his right, his sister Veronica at his left. I was on the edge, half-shadowed, my shoulder almost cropped out entirely. Every time I walked past it, I felt the chill of its quiet message. You're here, but you're not one of us. The night of Evelyn's birthday was supposed to be warm and celebratory. The dining table glowed under crystal light, plates arranged like works of art. I sat beside Daniel, smiling politely as conversations swirled about stock markets, vacation homes, and people I'd never met. Then Veronica leaned forward, resting her chin delicately on her manicured hand. "I heard there's a new cafe downtown looking for waitresses," she said, her tone honeyed and poisonous. "Might be more your speed." A few laughs broke out, too quick to be kind. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. My fingers tightened around my wine glass. I kept my face pleasant, lips curved, but inside, something clicked into place. After dinner, as we gathered in the living room for cake, I caught my reflection in the glass of the French doors. The smile on my face didn't reach my eyes. I remembered every time I'd been forgotten from group photos, every half joke about my lucky break marrying Daniel. They thought they knew my worth. They were wrong. Later that night, alone in our bedroom, I opened my laptop. Hidden among the folders and spreadsheets was the heartbeat of my real life. Phoenix Systems, the company Daniel's family thought I'd left behind. Technically, I had. Publicly, my co-founder held the CEO title. But behind the scenes, I still held the controlling shares, signed off on major deals, and knew exactly how much our valuation had grown in the last 18 months. I scrolled through the latest reports, the numbers pulsing on the screen like a private pulse only I could feel. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from an account I didn't recognize. A link, nothing else. I hesitated, then tapped it. My heart skipped. It was a TikTok clip, grainy but clear enough. Veronica's voice floated out, dripping condescension. "Might be more your speed," followed by muffled laughter. The video had nearly 2 million views and climbing. The comments section was a war zone, strangers taking sides, most of them skewering Veronica. No one knew where the clip came from. I did. That afternoon, I walked into the study and found Daniel reading. "That video, it's going around," he said carefully. "It's making the family look bad." I met his eyes. Maybe they should be more careful about how they treat people. He frowned but didn't press. Hours later, as the sun slipped behind the city skyline, I checked my email. One new message, no subject line, from the same account that sent the video. 4 words. "Ready to start the next phase?" My gaze drifted to the framed photo on my desk. Not the family portrait, but a candid shot of me and my co-founder at our first product launch. I'd been in jeans, hair tied back, holding a champagne bottle like it was a sword. We were nobodies then. Now, the world was about to know my name. I clicked over to my calendar. A meeting was set for Friday with the senior board of Altura Group, a tech giant eager to partner with Phoenix Systems. My co-founder would bring me in quietly for the final negotiations. A slow smile crept across my face as my eyes landed on one small note in the meeting description. Potential new hire in marketing, Veronica Carter. The next morning, I sat at the long marble kitchen island, a pile of receipts and a half-empty coffee mug in front of me. The calculator app on my phone glowed with a number so small it would have made Veronica's perfectly arched brows shoot skyward. I made sure the pile looked messier than it was, my pen scratching out utilities and groceries in uneven handwriting. Evelyn breezed in, silk robe flowing, and glanced at my little setup. "Still no luck with job hunting?" she asked, her voice dipped in faux sympathy. I looked up, blinking as if I'd been caught off guard. "Not yet. The market's tough," I said, folding a receipt in half. Daniel walked in behind her, his eyes flicking from my papers to my face. He didn't say a word, but I caught the faint crease between his brows. They left for the day, Evelyn humming, Daniel silent. I gathered the receipts, shoved them into an envelope, and slipped it into my handbag. By mid-afternoon, I was in the downtown library cafe, laptop open, fingers flying over the keyboard. The outer screen showed job boards and budgeting spreadsheets. The inner workspace, hidden behind a quick keystroke, held a different reality. Phoenix Systems' encrypted dashboard. A shadow fell across my table. "Delivery for M. Carter?" I looked up at a man in a baseball cap holding a small padded envelope. "That's me." He handed it over without another word and left. Inside was a matte black USB drive. No label. I plugged it into my secure laptop. Folders opened. Financial records, marketing strategies, internal memos, all bearing the logo of Altura Group, the company Veronica was desperate to join. The files were confidential, damaging if seen by the wrong eyes. I leaned back, heart tapping out a steady rhythm. Whoever sent this knew exactly what they were doing. That evening, Daniel found me at my desk. "You've been busy lately," he said carefully. I glanced up with a faint smile, trying to stay productive. He hesitated, then nodded, but I could feel his suspicion simmering under the surface. By the next morning, I had a plan. I called Rachel, my head of digital strategy, a title no one in the Carter family knew existed. "Need a favor," I said. "We're going to start a conversation online. Nothing direct, just plant a seed." Rachel grinned through the video call. "Any particular garden you want it planted in?" I sent her the Altura files via our secure channel. "Make sure this looks like it came from somewhere else, and get in touch with Drew." Drew was a YouTuber with millions of followers, infamous for exposing shady corporate dealings. His videos could tank a stock price overnight. That afternoon, Drew uploaded a new video, The Untold Truth About Altura Group. He didn't name names, but the documents and patterns he described would make anyone inside the company sweat. The comments section exploded, speculating, dissecting, connecting dots. I watched the view count climb. Within hours, Altura was trending, not in the way Veronica hoped, and yet a flicker of hesitation lingered. If Altura pulled back on hiring, Veronica's application would vanish with it. This wasn't just revenge, it was career assassination. For a moment, I almost closed the video. Then I remembered her voice at the dinner table and the years of quiet contempt before that. 2 days later, my phone pinged. A new email, subject line, Global CEO Summit, invitation. I read it twice. Phoenix Systems had been nominated for an innovation award and was invited to join the summit's opening panel. The board wanted me, by name, on stage. For the first time in years, my name would be public again, attached to the company I had built. There was no hiding after this. I closed the laptop slowly, the weight of the moment pressing into my chest. The next phase wasn't coming. It was already here. I called Veronica on a Wednesday morning, my tone perfectly casual. "I'm working with a client who's trying to expand their market. They're looking for some fresh marketing insight. Thought of you immediately." There was a pause on the other end, long enough for me to picture her calculating the angle. "Sure," she said finally. "I'm free Friday." "Perfect. We'll meet at my office downtown." Friday arrived with a crisp autumn sky. Veronica walked into the Phoenix Systems lobby in her tailored navy blazer, her eyes darting around the sleek space. The glass walls, the digital displays, the hum of quiet power, none of it revealed the name of the person running it. Not yet. I greeted her with a warm smile. "Glad you could make it." The conference room was set up with 2 cameras mounted discreetly on the walls. The meeting was being live-streamed on our private enterprise network, a routine practice for training sessions. What Veronica didn't know was that this training had an audience of over 3,000 employees worldwide. We began with a mock case study about a fictional brand entering a competitive market. Veronica leaned forward, scribbling notes, offering confident suggestions. She was good, ambitious, sharp, but every word she spoke played directly into the scenario I'd designed. Halfway through, a young associate entered, carrying a tray of coffee. She set one in front of me. "Here you go, boss." Veronica froze, pen hovering above her notepad. Her eyes flicked to me, then to the associate, then back. I didn't acknowledge it, continuing the discussion as if nothing had happened. The chat feed on the live stream lit up with comments from employees who knew exactly what was happening. When the meeting ended, Veronica gathered her things slowly. "You run this place?" I tilted my head, smiling faintly. "Something like that." She left without another word, her heels clicking a little faster than when she'd arrived. That evening, I sat in my home office, the glow of the desk lamp casting shadows across the walls. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, there was a nagging pull, a thread I couldn't ignore. Veronica's arrogance was predictable. Evelyn's silence was not. I opened a secure folder on my laptop, one of Rachel's ongoing monitoring reports. Embedded in the feed were screenshots of online chatter, emails, and whispers from business circles. One name kept surfacing alongside mine, Evelyn Carter. It didn't make sense. Evelyn had never shown the slightest interest in the business world. She preferred garden parties and charity luncheons. But the more I dug, the more connections appeared. Subtle, careful, all pointing toward Apex International, a direct competitor to Phoenix Systems. I scrolled further, my stomach tightening. Apex had been aggressively courting clients we'd been in talks with. Deals we'd been close to finalizing suddenly went cold. Then I found it, a private dinner 2 months ago between Evelyn and Apex's COO. There were photos, discreetly taken from across the restaurant. A quiet dread settled in. Evelyn wasn't just undermining me socially. She was moving against me strategically. Rachel called just past 9. "We traced the earliest posts about you marrying for money back to a PR firm on Apex's payroll. Guess who's been signing the checks?" My hand tightened around the phone. "Evelyn." Rachel's voice dropped. "She's not just trying to hurt your reputation. She's playing long-term. If she can push Daniel to divorce you, she thinks she can cut you out completely, financially and professionally." I stared at the family portrait on the wall, the one with my body nearly cropped from the frame. It suddenly felt less symbolic and more like a blueprint. 2 days later, an unmarked envelope appeared in my mailbox. Inside was a single USB drive. No note. I plugged it into my laptop and opened the sole file, an audio recording. Evelyn's voice was unmistakable. "Daniel needs to see what she really is. Once we have the papers drawn up, we can settle everything quietly. Apex will handle the rest. We'll position it as a mutual decision. He'll thank us for it eventually." A man's voice, probably the lawyer, asked, "And her shares in the company?" Evelyn answered without hesitation. "She won't have them, not when we're finished." I sat back, the weight of her words pressing into my chest like a stone. The betrayal was complete, calculated and cold. My phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. "We have enough to bury her. Just say the word." I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I closed my laptop, walked to the window, and looked out over the city lights. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. Evelyn wanted a war. She was about to get one. The night after hearing Evelyn's voice on that recording, I didn't sleep. I sat in my study with the curtains drawn, piecing together every fragment of leverage I had. Somewhere in the middle of those sleepless hours, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in years, one labeled Avalon Holdings. 3 years ago, Daniel's family company had been on the verge of collapse. Their flagship property deal had imploded, lawsuits circling like vultures. Publicly, a silent investor had stepped in at the last minute, infusing the capital they needed to survive. Privately, that investor had been me. I'd used Avalon Holdings, an entity I controlled anonymously, to funnel the money in. It was the only reason the Carter name still carried weight in the business pages, and they never knew. I picked up the phone and called a number I hadn't dialed in years. "It's Madison," I said when the line clicked. The voice on the other end hesitated, then warmed. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again, boss." His name was Sean, once an operations manager at the Carter family company. Veronica had humiliated him in front of an entire boardroom before firing him. I'd hired him into Phoenix Systems without fanfare. Now he was my shadow in places I couldn't be. "I need you to pull the files from Avalon Holdings," I told him. "Every transfer, every receipt. And Sean, this time we're not keeping it quiet." 2 days later, I walked into the studio of a morning news show. The producers knew me as a successful entrepreneur with a big announcement. The host knew only that I was about to make their ratings spike. As the cameras went live, the host smiled. "We have Madison Carter here with us today. You've been making waves in the tech world, but you've hinted you have a bigger story to tell." I leaned forward. 3 years ago, the Carter family company was weeks away from bankruptcy. A silent investor stepped in and saved it. That investor was me. Gasps rippled through the studio crew. I continued, my voice steady. "I've stayed silent out of respect for my husband's family. But recent events make it clear. The people who owe me the most are the ones who've worked hardest to tear me down." Somewhere in the building, a red light blinked on. Live feeds were already clipping the interview for social media. By that evening, the internet was a storm. Hashtags with my name trended alongside Carter Family Truth and Silent Investor Reveal. And then the second wave hit. Sean had been busy. Short, punchy videos began appearing on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. In each, Veronica or Evelyn appeared in offhand moments, belittling employees, gossiping about me, dismissing my contributions. The audio was crisp, the captions brutal. One showed Veronica sneering, "She only has Daniel because no one else would put up with her," followed by a cut to the silent investor receipts. Another captured Evelyn at a charity luncheon, telling a friend I was a decorative accessory to the family. Overlaid on the video were headlines about the Avalon bailout. By the third day, even Carter family loyalists were silent. The moment came on a Thursday morning. I stood on stage at the Global CEO Summit, lights blazing, the crowd hushed. The announcer's voice echoed, "Please welcome Madison Carter, CEO of Phoenix Systems and principal investor of Avalon Holdings." Somewhere in the audience, Evelyn sat rigid, Veronica beside her, pale as porcelain. I spoke about innovation, resilience, and the necessity of integrity in leadership. I didn't look at them. I didn't need to. After the applause, I retreated backstage, heart pounding, not from nerves, but from the hollow echo of victory. The crowd loved me. The industry respected me. And yet I could feel Daniel drifting, an absence heavier than any betrayal. Later that night, I returned home to find his study door closed. I paused outside, listening. No voices, just the sound of papers being shuffled. I knocked softly. "Daniel?" His reply was quiet, almost unreadable. "We need to talk, just not tonight." The war was won, but the ground beneath my marriage was cracking. The fallout came faster than I expected. Within a week of my public reveal, Daniel had barely spoken to me. He moved through the house like a shadow, present but unreachable. One evening, I found him in the kitchen, staring at a glass of water like it held the answers. "So you saved my family's company," he said, his tone flat. You've been running a tech empire behind my back. What else have you been hiding, Madison? I didn't hide it to hurt you, I said quietly. I hid it because your family would have used it against me from the start. He gave a humorless laugh. So you were always playing the game, even with me. I didn't answer. His silence after that was worse than any argument. Meanwhile, Phoenix Systems was going through its own storm. The exposure had brought us more attention, but also scrutiny. Some of our smaller projects were hemorrhaging money. After reviewing the numbers, I had to approve a restructuring plan that meant letting go of 15 employees. The day I signed the termination notices, I felt the weight of every signature. These weren't just names on paper. They were people who'd trusted me, worked for me, built my vision alongside me. That night, I sat in my office long after the lights in the building had gone dark, wondering if the win had been worth it. A few days later, I came home to a silence that felt different. I walked into the living room and saw it immediately. Daniel's favorite armchair empty, the bookshelf half cleared. On the coffee table sat his wedding ring, glinting in the low light. There was no note, no goodbye, just absence. The next morning, I threw myself into work, trying to numb the ache. That's when Rachel burst into my office, her face pale. "We've been breached." I straightened. "What do you mean, breached?" "Client data. Gone. Someone sold it." It took us less than a day to trace it back. Veronica. But the trail didn't stop there. The buyer wasn't Apex International. It was Titan Global, a massive conglomerate with a reputation for dismantling competitors by any means necessary. They'd been watching me for months, using my own in-laws as unwitting pawns in a longer game. Evelyn's whispers, Veronica's arrogance, even the media storm, they'd all played into Titan's strategy to destabilize me. I confronted Veronica at her condo. She opened the door looking like she hadn't slept in days. "You shouldn't be here," she muttered, glancing down the hallway. "You sold my data to Titan," I said. It wasn't a question. Her eyes flickered with something. Guilt, fear, maybe both. I didn't know it was them. They told me it was just competitive intelligence. I thought it would hurt you, not destroy you. "Congratulations," I said coldly. "You managed both." She stepped back, voice trembling. "Madison, they're not done. They're coming after me, too. I think we've both been played." I folded my arms. "You expect me to believe that?" Veronica nodded, desperation etched into every line of her face. "I got a message last night, an ultimatum. Either I help them get deeper into Phoenix, or they'll release something that will ruin me." For a moment, I considered walking away, let her face the consequences of her own choices. But then I remembered Titan's reputation. If they were willing to eat me alive, they'd swallow her without a second thought. "What do they have on you?" I asked. Her answer was barely a whisper. "Everything. My debts. The falsified numbers on my last job. Even that investment I borrowed from Mom's trust fund." I exhaled slowly. "You've made a mess, Veronica." She swallowed hard. "I know. But if you don't help me, they'll win. And if they win, you lose everything too." Her words hung between us, heavy and undeniable. For the first time, I saw the faintest crack in her armor. Not manipulation, not arrogance, but raw fear. I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no either. The first meeting with Veronica felt like walking into a room full of smoke. You couldn't see the edges, but you knew the fire was still there. We sat across from each other in my office, both of us wary, both of us too tired for pretense. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said, leaning forward. "I'm asking for survival. Titan wants both of us gone. We can't beat them alone." The words tasted strange in my mouth, but I said them anyway. "Then we don't fight alone." Over the next week, we built a strategy, part corporate warfare, part chess game. Titan's strength was its size, but that also made it slow to pivot. We decided to sell off a vulnerable branch of Phoenix Systems to a neutral party, a move that would look like weakness to Titan but was, in truth, bait. The sale freed up capital and removed the very segment Titan had been targeting. At the same time, Veronica worked her old contacts, feeding Titan just enough misinformation to keep them overconfident. I coordinated with Rachel and Sean to secure every other division of the company, locking down data so tightly it would be useless to anyone without the full picture. It wasn't without cost. The division we sold had been my first baby, the original concept that grew into Phoenix. Letting it go felt like amputating a limb, but I knew it was the only way to protect the rest. 2 weeks later, we faced Titan in a negotiation that wasn't really a negotiation. I offered them a choice: walk away quietly or face a public exposure of their predatory acquisitions. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents tying them to at least 3 high-profile collapses, all with evidence of coercion. They took the deal, not because they wanted to, but because they understood the damage I could do. When the meeting ended, I returned to my office to find the door already open. Evelyn sat in one of the leather chairs, her posture stiff, her hands folded in her lap. I came to say... She hesitated, her voice faltering for the first time since I'd known her. I was wrong. About you. About everything. I didn't answer immediately. The part of me that wanted vindication urged me to twist the knife, but I simply said, "It's too late for some things, Evelyn, but not for all things." She nodded once, eyes downcast, and left without another word. Months passed, and life inside the Carter family shifted. The trust fund that had once been the family's safety net was restructured. Everyone, Daniel, Veronica, even Evelyn, had to earn their own way. No more endless dinners funded by inherited wealth, no more decisions made in smoky backrooms. Veronica stayed on at Phoenix. She started small, managing projects, learning the systems, but she surprised me. The arrogance was still there, but it was tempered, redirected into ambition for the company rather than against me. In time, she became someone I could trust to handle fires without burning the building down. For myself, I launched something new, the Phoenix Foundation, a fund dedicated to supporting women who had been underestimated, manipulated, or betrayed in their personal and professional lives. The first grant went to a young, single mother who'd been forced out of her job after whistleblowing against her employer. Seeing her walk into her own small office for the first time reminded me why I'd fought so hard to keep control of my own. One late evening, I sat in my office alone, city lights spilling through the window. My inbox pinged. A new email, no sender listed. The subject line read, "You think the game is over?" I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. Maybe the game wasn't over, but this time, I knew exactly how to play.